Hi. Oh, it's Fiber Friday. Yay. We're working on a hat. So before we get to that, first of all, I hope you have your 3 inches of the knit purl. We have 3 knit, 3 purl, 3 knit, 3 purl the whole way around. Cast on with 72 stitches. And we learned how to knit in the round. So I'm going to show you a couple examples. And this is the hat that we're going to be making right now. And it has the 3x3, 3 knit, 3 purl the whole way around. And it's 3 inches for that pattern. Once you've gotten that pattern down, then we could just go ahead and start to knit, just plain straight knit. And for this, I think we do about 6 inches before we start to decrease. And there is a pattern to the decrease. So today I'm going to show you how to start just plain knitting in the round, and then we'll go from there. The other hat that is based on this premise is just this hat, and it goes on just like this. The cuff doesn't turn up, it just sits right there like that, and it's a shorter cuff, which is about 1.5 inches. And then these are cables. Woohoo! So we will be working with cables in the future, and I will show you how to make this hat, knit this hat. It's a very easy cable pattern. There's not a lot to it. So we'll talk about this one later, but I'm going to leave these over here for now. A few other projects that I do want to show you how to do in the future. I want to show you how to make fingerless mitts, which are easily translated into just plain mitts. And this is a fun pattern, really cute. The stitches go in diagonals. And again, this is another lesson that we will learn, is how to add thumbs. Okay, and then this is a cowl with a different pattern in it, which includes not only knit, it includes knitting together and then adding on, knitting together and making, this is an owl pattern. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. And then it includes not only the purl stitch, the knit stitch, the purl and knit stitch put together, and then back to the other ones. So we will try and get to some of these items in the future, but first of all we're going to work on the hats. This is an easy hat to make, and it helps you to learn your basic stitches that you're learning as you're making a project, which is kind of fun. Okay, so when I look at my work, this is 3 inches tall. It's just a little bit over 3 inches tall, and that's what we want, because this will eventually be turned up to our space that is just knit, just like this one. This gets turned up, and just like that. Okay, so basically what I want to do is I want to remember that this little tail that I cast on with is the beginning of my round, and I want to make sure that that is where I'm starting to knit. So I'm going to push all of my stitches on my left hand needle up to my needle. I'm going to pull this one just like we did when we were doing the knit and the purl. And basically all we're going to be doing is knitting these stitches, but I am going to bring your attention. The first 3 knit stitches are very easy, and we did a lesson on learning to decipher which way our stitches are leaning. Now those were leaning properly. This one is leaning this way. Let me go ahead and knit those before I explain any more, because I want to show you more knit stitches. I'll be right there. Because of the way we purl, when we purl, we took our needle, our yarn to the front, and then we wrapped it this way from clockwise around our needle, rather than the usual counterclockwise, which makes a tighter purl stitch, which is something that you want to know how to do when you are doing cables. That's very important with cable knitting. Okay, so when we look at this stitch, this side is coming up. Let me pull those apart just a little bit and get my pointer. When you look at, sorry, That was not cool. There we go. Okay, when you look at this stitch and you pull it apart, what you can see is that this yarn is coming from this side. It goes up and over to the back, and then it lays to the left. The right hand stitch is in front and the left hand stitch is in back. Now that's basically the stitch that you want to knit. You want to knit from the front to the back on those stitches. And we did do a lesson like that. You can see again, this stitch comes up from the right hand side, and as it goes back, it falls down to the left hand side. So we're going to go ahead and knit that one and knit that last one. Now these are purl stitches, and because we have purled them differently than what most people teach us to purl, when we look at this, and let me pull this apart for you so you can see it really well. Our yarn comes from this side, it goes up the back, and then around to the front, and then it goes across. So that's the way we know that we need to knit in the back of that stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and put my yarn in the back and knit, and in the back and knit, and in the back and knit. And again, here we've come to a regular knit stitch, and when we look at that knit stitch, you can see the yarn is coming from this side, going up over and to the back, and then down and across. So this is the one that we want to go ahead and knit in the front. Knit, knit, knit. Most of the time, if you have done the knit and purl the way we've shown you on the other video, you are going to knit into the back of your purl stitches. You don't want to knit in the front. Let me show you. It twists your stitches. You do want to knit in the back of your purl stitches. And then I'm back to 3 knit stitches, which are just knitting in the front of those stitches. And again, I'm going to knit in the back of these purls. Now we've also talked about how to determine whether you're on a knit or a purl stitch. When you're on a knit stitch, you can see that your stitches are very smooth. Your purls have little bumps. Let's knit these 3 knit stitches, and then let's look at our purls. The purls have a very small thread that goes across each of them, and that tells me that they are purls. So I'm going to go ahead and knit in the back of these. And again, I've come to the very smooth. There's no bump across my yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and knit, knit, knit. And there are my bumps across these 3 stitches. So I'm going to knit in the back of those. And for the next 6 inches, we are just going to knit around. And I've come to the end of my side, so I'm going to turn it. I don't know if you've ever watched me, but instead of pulling these, which if you're secure, knowing which one you're pulling, go ahead. Most of the time I will push the needle that I'm going to use, because I have been known to pull the entire needle out and have to start again. So that's just a safety measure for you to let you know. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and knit 3 knit stitches, knit in the back of our 3 purl stitches. Knit our 3 knit stitches, knit in the back of our 3 purl stitches. Knit our 3 knit stitches, knit in the back of our 3 purl stitches. Now this is basically our setup row, because once you have set these up and gotten the knit and purl stitches the first time knit, then all you have to do is just keep knitting in the front of your stitches. You're just going to be knitting knit stitches. So let's go ahead and knit to the end of this row. Again, knit in the front of the knit stitches and knit in the back of the purl stitches. So we have done both sides, and we should have all of our knit and purl stitches turned into knit stitches. So what you're going to do from now until next Friday is go ahead and knit all of your stitches. You're just knitting straight through. They are all going to be knit. You don't have to worry about if you have to knit in the front and then knit in the back. These are all going to be knit in the front. And as your work grows, you'll have a beautiful fabric. I'm going to try and get to the end of this row with you and just kind of show you the difference between our rib stitch of knit 3 purl 3 and then just our knit stitch, because it really does make a nice fabric. When you looked at the pink hat, I'm sure you could kind of see what kind of fabric it was starting to make. It's a smoother fabric when you're knitting. Purl stitches all have bumps. And I'm going to show you the difference on the cowl in just a moment. Okay, so as we are going along, you can see now that even your purl stitches that we had done purls, they're starting to get very smooth, just like the regular knit stitches. Okay, so for next week, try and get your 6 inches done. And then we will go ahead and start to decrease. I will give you the formula for all of the decreases. But before we go, let's go ahead and look at this cowl again. Now when we look at this cowl, I hope you can observe the different stitches that we've done. This is all purl. This is knit, and we're working in circles, remember. This is one circle. Just kind of like our hat, only it's bigger. So we have all purls, and then we have all knit. These have all been knit, all of these rounds. Once we get to our little owls, you can see that we have a pattern that makes this become, and these are some cables. Some of these ears are cables, these are cables, these are cables. And we will work on cables before we start something like this. I will teach you a few cable tricks. But you can see this is purl because it's got the bumps. This is knit because it's very smooth, and it's also cables. And then down at the bottom we come to a few purl stitches to make it look like it's a tree limb. And then we have knit, which is very smooth, and then we have purl, which is very bumpy. So before we can start on this, we are going to complete this hat, and then we are going to work on our second hat, which is going to have cable stitches. So I'm going to teach you how to do cable stitches before we do anything more fancy. And this is really not hard. It's easier than you'll realize. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed our Friday Fiber video for today. I know they're short. They're probably about 10 to 15 minutes long, but it's just enough to show you the next technique that you're going to use. Go ahead and work on your hat with just plain knit stitches, and make sure that the easiest thing to do to measure is to go ahead and measure from one of your purl stitches because it's a bump, or you can measure from the bottom. Make sure that you have 3 here and then 6 at the top. So you'll have 9 inches from the bottom to where we want to start our decreases. Okay, so I'll see you next Friday, and we'll continue with our hat. Thanks for stopping. See you later. Bye-bye.